So in this video we're looking at solving trig equations. This is the first time you've really covered anything that's even a little bit new here. It's fairly straightforward though. It really builds on everything that we've done previously. Now, hopefully you remember, first of all we came from looking at the standard triangles, and then we took a look at, if I can find it, we looked at the unit circle and exact values, and then we looked at solving things like cos theta equals root 3 on 2. And you should be comfortable with solving that within 0 to 2 pi, or even if 0 to 4 pi or 5 pi or something like that. You should be able to solve that and get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 answers depending on how big the domain is. The work that we're going to do today follows directly on from that. Let's take a look at a worked example. Okay, so here's our first worked example here. Root 3 tan theta minus 1 equals 0. We need to put it in a domain as well. Let's say 0 is less than theta, which is less than 2 pi. So that's a domain that we're really comfortable with. Just one full rotation around our circle here. Now, it's really quite simple. You only need to get this equation into a form that looks like this. Sine, cos, or tan theta equals, and then a single fraction. So we just need to take this equation and rearrange it so it looks more like this. So rearranging that, first of all I can take that negative 1 and move it to the other side, and it'll become positive 1. Now we have root 3 tan theta, and then I can get rid of this root 3. Now from here it's a very straightforward question. Now you can look over here, tan 1 on root 3, that's going to be pi on 6. So I'm going to call this my reference angle. Reference angle equals pi on 6. Now we can see that that's positive, so C-A-S-T. That's a positive, there's no negative here. So if it's a positive and it's a tan, it means it's going to exist in this quadrant and in this quadrant. So I'll just draw up my circle here. Okay, and it's going to exist in the A quadrant and the T quadrant. Pi on 6, that's about 30 degrees. Well, exactly 30 degrees. So that's pi on 6, and that's pi on 6. Now my final step here is just to measure these angles. Now that is pi on 6, so that's one of my answers. So therefore theta equals pi on 6, and the second one of my answers is going to be from here all the way around to here. Pi on 6, 2 pi on 6, 3 pi on 6, 4 pi on 6, 5 pi on 6, 6 pi on 6, 7 pi on 6. Oops. Okay, so there's our answer to our question. You can see that these aren't overly complicated. It's just a matter of first rearranging them until they're in this form. And then once they're in this form, you go through your steps and you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, however many answers it might be. Now something I probably need to make very clear here, you really need to check this domain and make sure that this domain is what you expect it to be. So for instance, if in this question the domain was instead 0 is less than theta, which is less than 4 pi, you would end up with, you need to do 2 rotations of the circle. So that's going to be, if the question we just did was this, there would be 4 answers. You'd have pi on 6 like that one, you'd have 7 pi on 6, you'd have to go all the way around the circle, which is 12 pi on 6, and one more time, which is 13 pi on 6. Or you need to go all the way around the circle, halfway around, that's 6 pi on 6, 12 pi on 6, 18 pi on 6, and then one more, that's 19 pi on 6. So really, depending on your domain, you'll get somewhere between 1 and infinity answers, depending on the domain. Also, depending on the domain, you might even get 0 answers. Okay, so that's a very, very simple example. We're just going to look, there's some tiny little ones that sort of will give us a little bit of trouble. We'll take a look at each one of those in turn in a minute.